And as he knows, and we talk about often, in the Pacific Northwest, where we're from, this is an enormously important issue. And I look forward very much to working with you and with all of our colleagues. I am going to start, though, by noting that the House last night voted to repeal Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada, tariffs imposed in spite of the USMCA and most notably without the support of Congress. Trump's chaotic tariffs are losing support across the political spectrum. Now the Senate needs to get that legislation to the president's desk and deliver some relief to American workers and to businesses as soon as possible. With respect to today's topic, let me start by talking about the fact, as noted, the USMCA is a good agreement that passed with extraordinary bipartisan support. There were senators who, as my colleagues know, had never voted for a trade agreement, and they joined forces for a bipartisan agreement here. That agreement promised to open up export opportunities for American farmers and businesses, and it promised strong standards on labor and the environment. Let me tell my colleagues this morning that at some point I will be shouting this from the rooftops, but today I will be a little bit quieter. But I want people to know that without strong trade enforcement, trade agreements are not worth the paper that they're written on. A trade agreement can't achieve its intended goals unless it's strongly enforced. Since Donald Trump took office last year, his U.S. trade representative has not begun a single enforcement case under USMCA. It hasn't even taken the first step. As a direct result, there are real and legitimate concerns about USMCA not living up to its promises. And the biggest culprit is an administration and a president who's more concerned with settling personal scores than putting American workers and our businesses first. If the executive branch won't do its job, then the United States Congress needs to take back its constitutional power over trade. And I want to make it clear that I believe Congress should have a bigger say on trade and tariffs and on holding the executive branch accountable for actually enforcing trade deals, which is not getting done now. For the first 4 years after the USMCA was implemented, things were looking up. Trilateral trade reached $1.9 trillion in 2024, up nearly $400 billion. U.S. manufacturing hit an all-time high of nearly $3 trillion in 2024. USMCA fueled over $60 billion in agricultural exports, something that Senator Crapo and I feel very strongly about as a priority in the Northwest. And finally, there was an opening of the Mexican market for American fresh potatoes, which, as the record will show, are better coming from Oregon than Idaho. But this was a big, big deal after 2 decades of unsuccessful talks. Then Donald Trump took office. Since then, random slapping of tariffs everywhere in sight. There was havoc on our supply chains, chilled investment, and driven our allies towards our enemies. U.S. manufacturing contracted for the 10th straight time in December with slumping orders and higher input costs. Exports to Canada, a hugely important trading partner, fell 23%. Canada is strengthening instead its economic partnership with China, which could have enormous impact on Americans and car manufacturers. So the Finance Committee is meeting today to talk, and I look forward to working with all my colleagues to talk about what comes next. Early signs indicate that Donald Trump is considering tearing up USMCA. Now, why would that be? I guess he wants to throw out tariff threats and bully other countries no matter the damage to American jobs, trade, or national security. If Donald Trump wants to yell at somebody for not doing their job on USMCA, my own take is he ought to look in the mirror. The fact is, USMCA delivered real wins for Americans. It included strong rules on labor and environment and new enforcement tools, with special credit to our colleague who sat down there, Senator Sherrod Brown, and I was pleased to be able to join him when he put together the rapid response mechanism to actually enforce trade laws. It created new opportunities for jobs and economic growth in innovative sectors like digital trade and services, another area where the chairman and I have some joint interests. And it strengthened supply chains and political alliances with our neighbors, promoting North American competitiveness in global markets. Without USMCA in place, supply chains can be disrupted. Prices go up, American alliances unravel, and North American workers, businesses, farmers, and ranchers are less able to compete with China. That's why USMCA was backed by such a broad alliance. Stakeholders across the political spectrum, from labor to business to college professors, pushed for the passage of the bill. And as was noted, 89 votes. You can't normally get, I see Chairman Brady here, normally you can't get 89 votes around here for ordering a soda. That was a big, big deal. But USMCA can only reach its full potential if the U.S. enforces strong rules. And if colleagues think I'm getting repetitive with respect to enforcement, guess what? You haven't seen anything, because it is absolutely critical to getting this job done. So let me close by saying USTR should use this 6-year review to deliver for farmers and workers and small businesses, high skill, high wage jobs that gives families an opportunity to prosper. Give Americans what they bargained for, and it's going to take a partnership with Congress, a commitment to enforcement and transparency with the public. And I'll just close by saying I'll work with anybody on all sides of the aisle in order to get a trade agreement that does those things. And I yield back, Mr. Chairman.